The deafening roar of the concrete mixer suddenly grinds to a heavy, unnatural halt. In the sudden silence, the only sound is the dry wind sweeping across the dirt yard, rustling the bamboo leaves near our porch. Tu Na looks up from the small bowl of rice porridge she is stirring for Henry. The site foreman walks over, his boots dragging in the dry earth. He wipes a thick layer of sweat from his neck with a stained towel. He doesn't speak. He just hands Tu Na a crumpled piece of paper, a revised invoice. Tu Na stares at the numbers, the color draining from her face. She looks at little Henry, sitting on a woven mat, safely kicking his yellow sandals in the dust, completely unaware that the future they are building just hit a brick wall. Hello friends, welcome back to our home. Today, the quiet life we are trying to build has met a storm we didn't see coming. The cost of steel has surged overnight. Our new factory warehouse, the one meant to secure our family's future, is suddenly $15,000 over budget. And we are completely out of money. The morning started like any other in our rural patch of Quang Ngai. The air was thick with humidity, the familiar rhythm of construction a comforting background noise to our daily chores. We were building a processing factory, a sanctuary not just for our family, but for our community. The framework stands naked now, skeletal steel beams reaching up into a heavy, graying sky. Tu Na stands perfectly still in the dusty concrete foundation. The paper in her hand feels heavier than the steel itself. This isn't just a business problem, it's a physical threat to our survival. We poured everything we had into those beams, sacrificing our savings. The physical expansion of our life here has collided violently with macroeconomic realities thousands of miles away. The workers sit in the shade of a jackfruit tree, exhaustion etched into their faces, waiting for a signal to continue. There is no signal to give. Tu Na folds the paper, slipping it deep into her pocket so Henry won't see her hands shaking. The disruption is total. The safety we thought we were building for our son has suddenly become a cage. The weight of debt is an invisible thing, but it presses down on you physically. It settles in your chest and makes the air hard to breathe. As the afternoon stretches on, the pressure in the yard begins to build, mirroring the dark, bruised clouds rolling over the mountains. The air grows uncomfortably still, holding the earthy smell of approaching rain. Tu Na retreats into the empty shell of the unfinished warehouse. She finds a solitary wooden crate in the corner and sits down, the rough wood snagging her worn trousers. She pulls out her phone, the screen cracked from months of farm work. She begins making desperate, hushed phone calls to the bank for an emergency loan. She speaks softly, gripping the phone tightly, her shoulders hunched inward to protect Henry from hearing the rising panic in her voice. Every call ends the exact same way. A polite refusal, a dial tone, another door quietly closing. Outside, I pace the perimeter of the exposed yard. The wind is picking up now, blowing harsh dust across the smooth foundation we poured just days ago. I stop and look at the brand new sorting machines sitting in the open air. We went into heavy debt to buy them, believing the roof would be finished long before the weather turned. They are pristine, expensive, and completely vulnerable. The clock isn't just ticking for our family. In a few days, the community's cassava harvest will arrive. Dozens of farmers, our closest neighbors, are depending on this factory to process their crops. If we fail, their harvest rots. We are carrying the economic hope of our village on our shoulders, and my legs feel weak beneath the immense burden. I look up at the sky. The gray is turning to an angry purple. The monsoon season doesn't care about our budget deficit. Nature is indifferent to our struggle. If the heavy rains hit before those steel beams are covered, the concrete foundation will flood, and water will ruin the delicate machinery beyond repair. Tu Na lowers her phone, burying her face in her hands for just a brief, unguarded second. The silence of the abandoned construction site is agonizing. We are trapped in the quiet, heavy moments before the storm, completely exposed, with nowhere left to turn. The first warning isn't visual. It is a low, resonant rumble deep in the earth that vibrates upward through the thick soles of my work boots. Then comes the sharp, unmistakable smell. Wet, unsettled dust mixing with crushed bamboo. The temperature drops 10 degrees in a matter of seconds. On the porch, little Henry stops playing with his sandals and looks up at the darkening sky. A single heavy drop of water strikes the casing of the primary sorting machine. It makes a sharp, hollow ping. In the quiet, tense yard, it sounds like a gunshot. I don't think. I just run. I sprint toward the equipment shed, my boots sliding in the loose gravel. I grab the edge of our largest blue agricultural tarp, the thick canvas we usually use to sun-dry rice in the autumn. It is heavy, cumbersome, and stiff from disuse. I drag it across the yard, the rough fabric scraping loudly against the dirt. Tuna drops her phone and rushes out to meet me. Together we try to heave the massive tarp over the top of the sorting machines. But the wind is fighting back. A sudden gust catches the heavy blue canvas, snapping it violently like a ship's sail in a storm. It rips out of my grip, the coarse rope burning the skin off my palms. I scramble onto the slick metal frame of the machine, trying to weigh down the corners with my own body weight. Tuna is pulling from the other side, her boots sinking deep into the wet mud that is rapidly forming around the unfinished foundation. Here is the quiet, terrifying realization that hits you when you try to force nature to wait. We spent the last 8 months meticulously planning the electrical grids, calculating output margins, and optimizing our supply chain. We spent exactly 0 days planning for what happens when a global steel shortage collides with a local monsoon. We finally managed to tie down 3 corners of the tarp, but it is useless. The sheer, overwhelming scale of the exposed machinery mocks our tiny patch of blue canvas. It covers the main conveyor belt, but leaves the intricate, imported electrical motors completely bare. The rain begins to fall harder now, heavy sheets of water instantly staining the pristine grey metal. We can't cover it all. We are watching our family's future slowly drown. Tuna stops pulling. She stands in the middle of the downpour, her chest heaving as she tries to catch her breath. The rain is already soaking her hair, flattening her thin linen shirt against her tired shoulders. She looks back at her phone, lying abandoned on a dry cement block near the porch. The bank isn't going to call back. The steel shipment isn't going to magically arrive. The illusion of our independence is completely shattered. When you build a life in the countryside, there is an unspoken rule about saving face. We wanted to be the ones providing the factory, the ones creating jobs, the ones protecting the community's harvest. Admitting that we have failed, that we are entirely out of options and out of money, it is a bitter, heavy pill to swallow. It requires the absolute death of pride. She wipes the rain from her eyes and looks toward the porch. Henry is standing by the bamboo railing, his small hands gripping the wood tightly, his wide eyes watching us struggle helplessly in the storm. Tuna makes her choice. She realizes that truly protecting our son means letting go of her pride. Without a single word to me, she turns away from the machines. She starts running. She doesn't run toward the safety of our house. She heads straight out the bamboo gate, her boots splashing violently through the rising red puddles, heading directly for the village square. I watch her small figure blur in the heavy grey sheets of rain. At the center of our commune, hanging from a massive ancient banyan tree, is an old heavy brass bell. It is deeply respected by everyone here. It is only ever used for raging wildfires, severe flash floods, or medical emergencies. It is never used because a business is failing. Tuna reaches the tree. She grabs the heavy wooden mallet resting against the trunk. She doesn't hesitate for a single second. She swings the heavy wood with all the strength left in her shaking arms. Bong! The sound is massive. It is resonant and deeply urgent, cutting cleanly through the crash of thunder and the drumming rain. Bong. She hits it again. It is a desperate, raw plea echoing down the valley, asking the one question we have been too proud to ask. For 10 agonizing minutes after the bell stops ringing, nothing happens. I stand by the exposed machines, the small blue tarp slipping further from my wet, raw hands. The rain is blindingly heavy now, turning the dirt yard into a river of red mud. I start to believe the bell wasn't enough. We are completely alone, and we are too late. Then, pale yellow lights pierce the gloom. One beam at first, bouncing wildly along the flooded dirt path, then another and another. A convoy of headlights cuts through the heavy sheets of rain. It's Uncle Bar, riding his old, battered motorbike, leading a dozen tractors and small trucks right into our muddy yard. Over 20 farmers jumped down into the storm. They didn't bring cash to fix our budget deficit. They brought what they had. Thick, heavy-duty agricultural tarps are folded over their tired shoulders. They carry long, green bamboo poles freshly cut from their own farm fences and thick coils of heavy nylon rope. Nobody asks for an explanation. Nobody mentions the bank or the embarrassing failure of our planning. Uncle Bar just points to the naked steel frame, shouts an order over the cracking thunder, and a chaotic, deeply coordinated dance begins. Muddy hands pass thick ropes back and forth. Boots slip heavily on the wet concrete, but strong arms quickly catch those who stumble. I watch our neighbors climb the slick skeletal steel bones of our ruined factory, bravely lashing the bamboo poles across the wide, empty gaps. They heave the massive canvas tarps high into the air, pulling them tight over the makeshift frame and securing them with heavy knots. This is the hidden wealth of building a life in a place like this. When you weave your family's daily survival into the fabric of a community, their survival becomes yours. The village's autumn harvest depends on this factory working, but right now, the factory depends entirely on the calloused hands of the village. In less than 40 minutes, a massive patchwork roof covers our fragile future. The storm continues to rage fiercely outside, but inside the unfinished warehouse, it is suddenly beautifully dry. The rain hammers violently against the thick canvas above us, but not a single drop touches the expensive metal sorting machines. Steam rises from the wet, tired shoulders of the farmers standing in a circle on our dry concrete foundation. Tu Na walks over to me, her hair plastered to her cheeks from the rain, and gently slips her cold hand into mine. We leave the machinery and walk back up to the warm, familiar wooden porch of our home. I wrap a thick, dry towel tightly around Tu Na's shoulders. Henry runs out from the kitchen, his little yellow sandals slapping the dry floorboards, completely safe and oblivious to the disaster we just barely escaped. We sit together on the porch step, holding our son, watching the men share a large pot of hot green tea that Bartang just brewed. We thought our family's security was tied strictly to bank loans, concrete foundations, and imported steel. We thought we were building a business to independently protect our son. But as I look at the smiling faces of our neighbors drinking tea in the downpour, the truth becomes perfectly clear. Our real wealth was never in the machinery. The monsoon season is just beginning, and there will certainly be more storms to test the quiet peace of this wooden house. We still have a factory to finish and a massive harvest to process together. But tonight our family is dry and safe, and we know now that the strongest roof you can ever build over your family isn't made of steel. It's made of the people who stand beside you in the rain. Have you ever faced a moment where everything went wrong, but your community stepped in to save you? Please share your story in the comments below. We read every single one. If this story brought a little bit of warmth to your day, please consider subscribing to our channel and joining our small family.